See how you about to start, ne?
Okay, Metlo, sharp man.
I'll
We are
swing
ready.
to you in. I'll take Pretoria first, and I'll swing to you.
Okay, good.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sorry, guys, we're about to start right now. Minister is actually walking in. Cheer up, guys. Don't look so gloomy. No, we haven't even started yet.
I'm a sundown supporter.
That's nice. You're moving up in the world.
I should hate this sitting down business.
Sir. Okay, sorry for the later start than scheduled. So I won't be too ceremonial. I'll just tell you what's going to happen. Minister is going to read out a statement.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good day. In his January 8th statement, the President Jacob Zuma opened this year of Oliver Tambo setting out the priorities of the African National Congress. In his remarks, he pronounced clearly that the most urgent task facing us is to speed up the building of a national democratic society wherein all South Africans enjoy an improved quality of life, especially the working class and the poor. It is in this context and with a keen sense of our unfinished historic mission that I must express how profoundly honored I am, as well as humbled, to be appointed by the President of the Republic to the critical position of Minister of Finance. I am fully aware that we are at a highly politicized, polarized, and contentious moment in the history of our young democracy. I will not be distracted by issues that are unrelated to the task at hand to accelerate economic transformation for the benefit of all South Africans. I am keenly aware of the sterling leadership of this portfolio by all of the previous ANC Ministers of Finance, Comrades Trevor Manuel, Nhlanhla Nene, and Pravin Gordhan. These comrades deployed by the ANC and working with society at large helped stabilize and grow the South African economy, having inherited a bankrupt Treasury from the apartheid government. I hope to continue the sound leadership and stewardship of the country's finances, which these comrades have displayed. I intend to implement the policies of the ANC as articulated in conference resolutions, in the 2014 election manifesto, as well as in the President's pronouncements, especially the State of the Nation address. The overarching message of these is that we need to radically transform the South African economy such that it works for all South Africans, including those who have been and still continue to this day to be marginalized, the working people and the poor, black people in general, women and youth. There needs not to be a contradiction between inclusive growth and radical economic transformation. There can be no economic progress that leaves the majority of our people behind. National Treasury is a key enabling institution for progressive change. Its expertise must be marshaled in support of national development. Its capabilities must be arrayed as part of an effective democratic state. Its professionalism must be nurtured in support of a policy orientation that reflects the urgent need for change. For too long, there has been a narrative or perception around Treasury that it belongs primarily and exclusively to orthodox economists, big business, powerful interests, and international investors. With respect, this is a people's government. Treasury, like all the institutions of our democratic state, belongs to the people of South Africa, black and white, rich and poor, young and old, male and female, urban and rural. Its policies, its management, its communication must be accessible to all South Africans. Like the nation as a whole and government itself, National Treasury does not exist for the exclusive use and benefit of some with power and vested interests. From Sandton and Alexandra, Stellenbosch and Khayelitsha and everywhere in our beloved country, we need to find each other. We are committed to maintaining an investment-grade credit rating for South Africa by all credible ratings agencies globally. This is important for ensuring South Africa's access to investment capital at a fair and manageable interest rate, to borrow for productive investments to improve our economic competitiveness. Whilst we accept that states justifiably incur the scrutiny of ratings agencies and investors when they borrow, we trust and hope that this scrutiny will not preclude our ability creatively and still within our means to pursue progressive policies to achieve our development objectives. We must have the courage and space to develop and implement policies of our choice, appropriate for our particular challenges and aspirations. At the same time, we are convinced that in order to sustain transformation and growth into the future, it is essential that South Africa relies on her own resources and that government lives within her means. The urgent task before us is the pursuit of inclusive growth and a shared wealth. Government has been and will remain committed to a measured fiscal consolidation that stabilizes the rise in public debt. It will remain committed to getting the best possible value for money in the use of public resources. We recognize our context as a middle-income country in a globalized world, and we appreciate the need to retain the confidence of international stakeholders and partners. However, we must never lose sight of the fact that we are accountable first and foremost to the people of South Africa, who are relying on us to use the authority and resources of government to develop this country in a way which positively and tangibly improves their quality of life. Over 20 years of managing the nation's fiscus, the ANC has exercised restraint, prudence, and an admirable commitment to balance competing priorities and constituencies. There is a growing consensus inside the ANC and progressive sectors in our society that, if anything, the pace and depth of transformation has been too slow and in many instances superficial. Simply put, many in our alliance feel that the ANC can do more in order to address the policies of radical economic transformation. We do not seek to implement a reckless ledge in a particular direction. We will stay the course in terms of the fiscal policy stance approved by government. This does not distract from our commitment, as stated in the ANC's 2012 strategy and tactics, to building a political and socio-economic system which places the needs of the poor in social issues such as healthcare, education, basic services, and a social security floor at the top of the national agenda. We can no longer pretend that growing the economy as it is currently constituted will improve the lives of all South Africans. We need to change our approach. The National Development Plan does not speak only to growth, but to inclusive growth. It speaks to achieving prosperity and equity. Over the last 20 years, the African National Congress has expanded the social wage and ensured that the budget redistributes incomes. However, the ownership of wealth and assets remains concentrated in the hands of a small part of our population. This must change. Neither growth alone nor transformation alone is a necessary or sufficient condition to de-racialize our economy and overcome poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We need to do both. We must transform the economy so that it may grow faster and inclusively. We must grow the economy to finance rising public provision for social needs. It will not be easy, but we have no choice. We must rise to the challenge, and we have no time to waste. In the coming weeks and months, I intend extensively to engage with key stakeholders, business, big and small, the establishment and black industrialists emerging and aspiring, managers and professionals, organized labor, civil society, the Tripartite Alliance, and the opposition. We remain very positive about the position of the South African economy, such as the fact that during the previous quarter, we witnessed a positive growth, albeit still modest, but it was consistent with our revised targets. The global growth itself seems set for recovery, and there has been no downward revision. The energy situation has stabilized. The drought seems to be behind us, and we seem set for a bumper crop this year. The labor relations situation in our country has considerably stabilized because of our deliberate political interventions through seeking a social contract that involves government, business, and labor. And the real exchange rate depreciation over the last 2 years has placed us in a favorable position with regard to our competitiveness. The focus now is on maintaining domestic and international support for our management of the economy. In terms of economic policy, we will seek to accelerate implementation of the President's 9-point plan for economic growth and job creation until new policy direction emerges from the ANC National Conference in December. After my initial discussions with the President and senior Treasury officials in the short time I've been assigned this role, which is basically 1 day, the following issues are emerging as the top priorities. Firstly, I will work with Parliament to approve the 2017 MTEF and ensure its effective and efficient execution, including achieving the fiscal objectives that our Cabinet approved in January. This includes ensuring that our country maintains the broad course of fiscal prudence it needs to be able to sustain its critical pro-poor social program. Secondly, I will work with my colleagues in government to reinforce the alignment of the budget to our development objectives as set out in the National Development Plan and other policy documents. Thirdly, I will continue to work with business and labor to ensure that we achieve faster and more inclusive growth so that we create more work and business opportunities for our people. Fourthly, as promised in the ANC's 2014 election manifesto, we will use state procurement strategically and vigorously to ensure localization, promote the promotion of Black-owned, women-owned, youth-owned enterprises and SMMEs, and to facilitate industrialization. We remain unapologetic about using the state spending power to grow Black enterprises. Equally, preferential procurement must be used to grow genuine productive capacity, not merely rent-seeking. In this regard, I am advised that the process of drafting the procurement bill to institutionalize procurement reform is well underway. And fifthly, I will work with the central bank to take steps to strengthen and transform the financial sector so that it serves all South Africans. Finally, as you are aware, a lot of service delivery takes place at the provincial and local government spheres. We will work closely with provinces to strengthen financial management, not as an end in itself, but as a means to deliver more and better quality services to our people. In the fullness of time, I shall hold similar briefings where I will set out more detail in each of the areas listed above. I am aware that we are in a climate of sharp disagreement and mutual suspicion. Let me be absolutely clear. I fully understand the enormous importance of the responsibility which has been given to me to oversee the management of the nation's financial resources. I did not get into politics for myself, but rather to serve the people of this country and to achieve the ANC's historic mission of a non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, united, and prosperous South Africa. The people of this country, the long-suffering ordinary citizens, are relying on their public representatives to better their lives. I will not betray our people by allowing individual or special interests to prevail over the public good. Every decision I will make will be for the public good, and I will be responsive and accountable to the public on those decisions. Therefore, I will ask skeptical members of the opposition, the media, and the public to judge me on my actions in the coming months, not speculation and rumors. This moment is neither comfortable nor convenient, but that is not what leadership is about. Rather, it is about doing the difficult things in service of others when the moment does arise. I take solace in the fact that whilst all the seemingly warring factions in our society today may seem to be polarized and pulling in different directions, we, however, all share deeply the interests of our nation and people at heart, and we seek, albeit in different ways, what is best for them. I believe on that basis alone that it is possible for us to act in ways that set our disparate grievances and opinions aside and advance the common interests of all our people, especially the poorest of the poor. We have a choice before us. We can retreat to our respective camps, our parties, factions, or cliques, and fight viciously to advance our own sectional interests and score points against our opponents. This will not build South Africa. I submit that what will build South Africa is for us to pull together and put the interests of all South Africans before our own. Let us focus our energies on finding common ground that will increase investment, create new jobs, increase productivity, and raise incomes. The task before is difficult, but in the words of the great Buginape leader Thomas Sankara, quote unquote, everything that man can imagine, he is capable of creating. Working together, we can and will create a better life for all, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. So this is the Q&A session now. I won't waste any time. Please just raise your hand, say which media house you're from, and ask away. So I'll start with the lady in the second row.
Thank you very much. It's Mariam Issa with FinWeek. I was wondering if the minister can tell us that whether he will be withdrawing the court application against Oak Bay Investments regarding relationships between banks and their clients. I'm also wondering if you can elaborate on what radical economic transformation means, how it will differ with the previous economic policy, and how it can be implemented while sticking to the spending and debt targets that we have.
Thank you. I'll take the dodgy-looking gentleman in the second row there, Stephen.
I presume you're referring to me. Thank you, Mayor Krome. Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister and Director General. Minister, in a strange way, and I'm sorry I can't see you, in a strange way, the entire story over the last few days around this reshuffle is about the integrity of the person who's been appointed to the position of Finance Minister to replace Pravin Gordhan. And I accept that you might feel this is unfair, but I think this is really about trust. So I feel I have to ask in that context then, apart from the income you receive from your roles in government and in Parliament, do you have any other sources of income, or if anyone gives you any kind of money or cash or anything in kind? Sorry to be so personal, but I think that's where we are.
No, that's fine, Stephen. That's why we're here. We'll take one more question, then we'll answer that round, and then we'll come back. Yeah.
Thank you. Zihila Nisilo from Power FM. I just wanted to check, Minister, are you still going, they're going to try and put it on the normal court roll, the Vadispan case. Are you still going to be opposing that? And then to the DG, you said in February, just before the budget speech, that the constant reshuffle of ministers in the ministry had had a negative effect on staff morale. Are you still worried about staff morale in the ministry? And then also the draft procurement bill, is that still going to be submitted to Parliament, to Cabinet? Thank you.
Okay, let's take those questions, Minister, and then we'll come back.
Thank you. The court case against Oak Bay is not going to be withdrawn. I must say that first, I think I need to preface what I'm going to say by indicating that I've been 1 day on the job. I have not had all the briefing I need to be able to make fully informed opinions on a whole range of issues. But I think I have also been following issues as a member of the National Executive. I think that the issues that are before courts are going to remain before the courts until they are resolved at that level, because I don't think it's my responsibility right now to take any decision either to withdraw cases or to plead differently in case cases have been lodged against us. So the current case is not going to be withdrawn. And perhaps to link that with the Waldorfspan case, the case was finalized and judgment has been passed. And so there is no point for me taking any decision on that matter because the court has already expressed its opinion on that matter. With regard to radical economic transformation, there has been a criticism, and I think at the right time, from the vantage point of Treasury, we are going to elaborate a bit more on what we understand about radical economic transformation and the role we are going to play in that regard. I must say, before I say any further, that indeed, everything we do will be done within the fiscal constraints and fiscal ceiling that we have set ourselves, because we would be making a terrible mistake if we personalize the policy of the Treasury. The policy of the Treasury belongs to government as a whole. It has been set and agreed to by government, by cabinet as a collective. And some of those policies serve before the legislatures, the National Assembly, and get adopted there. And so they don't belong to me and don't belong to any individual. They are collective decisions. Now, having said that, the issue of radical economic transformation arises from a criticism that for quite a long time, the structure of the South African economy has not been changed. We have not paid sufficient attention to the real economy, to industrializing the economy, to ensuring that we create entrepreneurs and industrialists, particularly among black people, in a manner that's going to expand our skills base, expand the ownership of property and wealth, and expand South Africa's productive capacity. It is important that we therefore have that understanding. Radical economic transformation is not about implementing the tender system more and faster. It's about changing the structure of the economy to bring on board as many players as possible, taking advantage of our vast natural resources, taking advantage of our vast infrastructure investment program, taking advantage of our agricultural sector, and many other advantages that we have as an economy. And utilizing that, we must be able then to create in industrial capabilities to localize the South African economy, to develop new supplier sectors, to ensure that we use government's vast procurement budget of around 500 billion rand to empower black people. We need to be unapologetic about those decisions. And that is why, among others, the triple PFA is being amended in order to address many of these, to change various rules with regard to local content and production, with regard to the point scoring, and other areas. So when we talk radical economic transformation, we're not talking about something that is out of our imagination, that has not been or is not being carefully thought out. We are talking about policies that have worked in many middle income countries, in many developing economies, and we're going to draw the best lessons from those economies in order for us to take decisions that are going to assist. I think that everybody will agree that the productive capacity, for example, of our agricultural sector is below comparative middle income countries. Everybody will agree that continuing to lock our economy, or to allow our economy to be locked in resources extraction and commodity exports, does not benefit either the economy itself or South Africans, because no new wealth is being created. We need, therefore, to take decisions that are going to support the localization, beneficiation, increase agricultural production, and other sectors, so that we can create more wealth and get more people working to earn incomes, and be able to improve their lives. Because, like my predecessors have on continuous occasions indicated, our social security bill can be better managed by getting more people employed, earning incomes, developing their own pension funds, investing in retirement annuities and programs such as those, increasing local investments, increasing local savings, so that we have money that the people can use to continue to develop their lives and invest in the economy. So that, in a nutshell, is what we are referring to when we talk radical economic transformation. And yes, it can be achieved within the fiscal policy ceilings that we have set ourselves. I think I have commented on the triple PFA. We will go ahead with it and ensure that it is finally amended. Now, coming back to perhaps the easiest question, do I earn any other income from anywhere else? I have been a politician all my life. I have no business interests. I am not involved in any business. I do not earn any income from anybody. The only income you will find in my bank account is the income I earn out of working in government. And so there is no other income. Yes, I need to add, I bought a house last year in Centurion, Midrand area, and somebody is renting the house, and that rent comes into my account, and I've declared that it's for public knowledge. Therefore, there is nothing I have hidden in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
I will come to those questions that were directed at me at the end.
Okay, yeah, DG will answer your questions at the end. So we'll take Arabile and then we'll go behind him.
Thank you so much. Arabile Kumete from Bloomberg News. My question as well, as you said, will be answered at the end. But DG, last year in May, you extended your contract for 2 years. Will you be staying the full 2 years at Treasury? And if so, I know it's still a far way away, but will you be looking to extend that if possible? And then, Minister, you said you will be speaking to the central bank and looking to improve the financial sector as well. What is it exactly that you feel is lacking? And what is it exactly that you feel that the central bank needs to do in order to improve the financial sector? And what is it that you'll be aiming at? At the same time, the relationship with SARS, obviously the previous administration had a bit of a severed tie there. Will you be looking to strengthen that in order to increase efficiencies in that department?
Okay, behind him.
Good morning, Minister, Deputy Minister, and DG. It's Mfuneko from Reuters News. First question, I just wanted to ask the Minister, how badly, if at all, do you believe that South Africa's credibility was damaged by the events of the past week in the eyes of both local and international investors? And do you believe that that may perhaps have hastened the likelihood of an investment, a credit rate downgrade? And I just wanted to ask the Minister to elaborate on what he means by credible rating agencies. Perhaps he can tell us which ones he believes are credible and which ones are not. Thank you.
Yes, so
Hello, I'm Lamiz Umarji from Fin24. My question is to the Minister, are you at liberty to say what you discussed with the ratings agencies? And my second question also ties in with Arabile is, do you think your move will help ease the tension between Treasury and SARS?
shoot.
Good morning, Ministers. Warren Thompson from MoneyWeb. Obviously, just wanted to say congratulations on your new roles and all the best going forward. I just wanted to understand. You've alluded to the fact that there's not been quick enough inclusive growth in the economy, Minister Gigaba, and you said that that is the reason you see one of the main roles you have to fulfill is to get this radical economic transformation going. Considering the way you've painted the picture, I wanted to understand what exactly you were saying about the policies of the ANC for the past 23 years. If you assume that there's been no inclusive growth. So what does it say about the policies the ANC has alluded to? And the second question is you I think deservedly gave credit to the previous finance ministers, all of whom I think we agree have been excellent in their jobs. But what are you going to do differently from Minister Pravin Gordhan, and why do you think he was fired if you consider him a very capable minister? Thank you.
Well, Minister didn't appoint himself, nor did he fire the predecessor, so that's going to be a difficult question to answer, but I'll still allow the Minister to manage that. Do you mind if we just take that side and then I'll come back to the side? I promise you we'll try to deal with as many questions as possible.
Thank you very much. Let me first assist a little bit in dealing with the question that was raised about staff morale to assist the DG. I know the DG will answer for himself. As I have said, I have been in government for 13 years now. During that time, for the last 7 years, I have been minister. When I was appointed Minister of Public Enterprises in 2010, November, there were obviously many questions being asked about who I was and whether I was capable up to the task before me. When I was appointed Minister of Public Enterprises then, in 2010, between 2008 and 2010, there had been 4 ministers in the portfolio. I was to be Minister of Public Enterprises for the next 4 years, and during which time I led the expansion of Transnet's capital investment plan, led successive negotiations with the contractors and subcontractors and labor around the challenges that Eskom was facing, which related to the delays in the build program at Medupi and Kusile, as well as the intermittent strikes that were taking place to try and resolve them, led to the agreements on various issues involving ESCOM, the contractors and labor, including ensuring that ESCOM establishes a group capital executive with the responsibility to oversee on-site the management of these huge contracts so that we are able to manage the relations between contractors and labor, and also to closely monitor the compliance with the agreed timelines. This is just but some of the issues that we had to deal with. And yes, so when I came into public enterprises, staff morale was low. Many of the boards of our state-owned companies in the portfolio then had boards whose tenure had been between 7 and 10 years without being rotated. I immediately introduced a policy of rotation. We established the boards, established the chairpersons of the boards, and took hard decisions from time to time to ensure that there was proper corporate governance, and among others, drove the program to develop the competitive supplier development program for state-owned companies so that we create relevance for the state-owned companies. They should not only become vehicles either for rent seekers or to pursue a good balance sheet, but we wanted them to become active players in the pursuit of government's transformation plans, including industrialization, localization, and the development of local suppliers. I'm mentioning this to say this challenge is not a new challenge to me. I met with the department's EXCO yesterday and assured them of my support and that we were going to work with them to continue implementing government's policies. I then indicated to them that I had had a telephonic conversation with my predecessors, my most immediate predecessors, and I intend meeting with them on Monday, as well as seeking meetings with the other colleagues that have served in the same portfolio, because I need to draw from everybody's experience. I take into cognizance that as politicians, we will not hold specific expertise that is relevant for the portfolios which we occupy. But when Minister Manuel came into the portfolio, he did not have experience in the portfolio, nor the expertise required for it. The same applied to my other predecessors, perhaps with the exception of Minister Nene. And they all distinguished themselves because of their leadership acumen, their honesty, their integrity, and their hard work. And so I think that the challenges of staff morale will be addressed. We will work together with both the executive and the staff themselves to focus on the urgent business of our mandate. As I indicated in my statement, I seek not to be distracted by issues unrelated to the mandate that I have been given. I understand fully the significance and weight of this portfolio, and I think that working together with our staff, we have a duty to serve the country and manage its financial resources. And I think we will focus with the Deputy Minister, the DG, the EXCO, and staff at large on that task. Now, everything, Arabile, everything that is there will always need an improvement. I don't think there is anything that is absolutely perfect and needs no further improvement. It is important for us. For me, in the first instance, I will soon be meeting with the governor of the South African Reserve Bank, whom I know very well from his previous tenure as Deputy DG here at National Treasury when he moved to being the Director General up until the time he succeeded Governor Jill Marcus. I will meet with him. I understand that he is out of town and will be returning by 3 o'clock this afternoon. But during the course of the next week, I will meet with him and we will have a broad range of discussions with the Deputy Minister and the DG around the issues that pertain to their area of work and how we will collaborate and what are the areas that we need to improve in our areas of work. And the same applies to the Commissioner of SARS, with whom I have had a telephonic conversation. I intend having a meeting with him on Monday too, so that we can initiate discussions aimed at improving relations between the department and SARS, taking into cognizance that SARS is an agency of the department. And as the parental department of SARS, we have a responsibility to smooth out relations between ourselves and at a personal levels. Again, I am glad that I know the Commissioner of SARS for a long time, from the time he was at DTI. I recruited him to be the CEO of the Government Printing Works before he was recruited as the Commissioner of Correctional Services, and subsequently now as the Commissioner of SARS. So all of these are personalities and individuals that I've worked with before at a professional and personal levels. And so I know them very well, and I believe that we will establish good relations with them. I think, Mfuneko, the challenges of the last few weeks and maybe last 2 days will obviously have taken many people by surprise. But you guys in the media have been speculating about this. In actual fact, I was much more shocked when I got the information, the call that I am to be Minister of Finance on Thursday night than you probably were. You even knew who was going to be the replacement. I was shocked both at the decision as well as at the fact that I was being put onto this hot seat. So we all have been shocked. Unfortunately, I may not know the reasons why the decisions have been taken. My duty is to focus on the tasks that have been given, as it happened in 2014 when I was moved from public enterprises to home affairs, as it happened in 2010 when I was moved from home affairs to public enterprises, and as it happened in 2009 when I was appointed in 2004 when I was appointed Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. Because then I had no understanding of what Home Affairs was about, and in actual fact I thought that the former president did not really take my energy as a 33-year-old serious, until I got into the department and began to understand how central it was to the functioning of government and society as a whole, as a manager of the National Population Register. And so, throughout the time, when changes happen, there will always be that instability, that uncertainty. But what we need to do is to focus on the task before us. I have understood the public narrative to be about the removal of my predecessors rather than questioning my appointment per se. Yes, some people have, but that I think is a consequence, unintended consequence of all changes of the nature and level that we are dealing with. Our responsibility, working as a collective, me in particular at the helm of that collective, is to restore confidence, to restore calm, to assure our stakeholders that we to collectively possess requisite political and expert capability to perform on the tasks that we have been assigned. I am not a newcomer to the economic sector. I have a vast array of experience in government struggling between the security and the economic sectors. The Deputy Minister has got a vast experience in the public service, particularly in the economic sector, having for also a long time chaired the board of PRASA, and being responsible for many of the changes we have seen in that state-owned company. I think that the Director General's expertise and vast experience as a technocrat speaks for itself. Everybody trusts him. I trust him. The Deputy Minister trusts him. We are going to work well together. And so it is not our duty to look back and recount what challenges have been confronted, but to look forward and take decisions about what we need to do to address our main tasks and challenges. Because ultimately, we all lose when we get drawn into debates about individuals and personalities. Before us is the big challenge of growing the South African economy inclusively, of turning our attention towards the real economy and ensuring that that real economy is supported by a sound macroeconomic framework to create jobs, to address inequality and poverty. That is our responsibility, in addition to managing financial resources. That's what we are going to focus on. That's what we are committed to. We are in no doubt as to what, therefore, is our responsibility. Now, when I say credible ratings agencies, I mean, don't worry about the word credible. We're talking about the ratings agencies. We're talking about the ratings agencies, all of them as they exist. If there is anyone from any rating agency in Tshwane, wait a little bit. We will see you another day. For now, we know I've had discussions with Moody's, I've had discussions with Fitch. I'm having a discussion tomorrow night with S&P and perhaps on Monday. I've indicated to them that we are open to them. We are accessible whenever they need to talk to us. We are available. And I think both these and any others, I am aware that the BRICS has decided to establish their own ratings agency, but you can't talk about it. It doesn't exist yet. When it does, we will engage with it. We are a member of BRICS. We respect our commitments to the BRICS countries. And so that's what I was referring to, the ratings agencies as we know them. Perhaps I could have used another prefix, but that will be subject for another day. The discussions with the ratings agencies, I'm not at liberty to divulge. I think it was necessary for me on my first day on the job, amidst all the excitement in our democracy, to talk to them so that they put voice and face behind the name or in front of the name and get to know who I am, how do I think, what do I think. And we had very good and cordial but robust discussions. I think that's about all that I can say with regards to our discussions with them. The ANC policies for the past 23 years, I think the ANC itself is candid enough if you look at the 2012 strategy and tactics, in it, it indicates what have been the weaknesses and mistakes in its economic policy. The very decision in 2012 to say we now have reached the stage where, to paraphrase, the political tasks attendant to the defeat of apartheid in 1994 have been completed. A new democratic constitution adopted, South Africa democratized, structures of democratic governance established throughout the country. That very admission, and then saying, but the challenge remains. Unemployment is rife, poverty is deep, inequality is unacceptable. The fault lines in our society, in terms of race, class, and gender, remain as pronounced because we have not restructured, we have not fundamentally transformed the structure of the economy. The economy is dominated by the financial sector alone, well, not alone, but dominated overwhelmingly by the financial sector. Our mining sector still very much is skewed towards commodity exports. And then it says that the problem with this is that the workers have been the least beneficiaries, the workers and the poor have been the least beneficiaries of the economic policies we have implemented up to then. And then arrived at the conclusion that you need a radical economic transformation. By radical, we didn't mean do something that we have not said in our previous policies we would do. And that's why the very fractious debate about nationalization was defeated by the National Conference. And the National Conference said, focus on changing the structure of the economy, industrializing the economy, expanding your capital investments, and all of those programs. Accelerating the pace of change. Do more within the resources we have as you expand growth, expand revenue, expand investments, expand savings. Then you grow the national fiscus to continue investing in the economy, in the basic and social services, and also cushioning the poorest of the poor that you are still not able to accommodate through productive employment, so that they can also benefit from the economy. So this issue of radicalizing the South African economy is certainly not my own idea. I support it wholeheartedly. I will pursue it with every inch of my energy, and will ensure that the National Treasury continues in a prudent fashion to drive economic policy and financial management towards these radical changes in the economy as we seek. Many people seem to think that when we talk radical economic transformation, we're talking only about black economic empowerment. We're talking about fundamentally the structure of the economy, because even black economic empowerment will not benefit from the ownership patterns and structure of the economy as they currently pertain. So there is a whole lot of clarification that we need to do, all of us. I will be meeting with my colleagues, the Minister of Trade and Industry, the Minister of Mineral Resources, and other ministers to discuss the various aspects of work that we need to look at in order to bolster the South African economy, to attract investments, both domestic and international, and in the course of time to be able to improve the public and investor perception of our economy and our economic management. It's going to require a lot of effort. I believe that we've got a strong team, and I believe I'm up to the task.
Thank you, Minister. So I'll take this row, and then I'm going to go to Cape Town because they're going to get very disgruntled that side. Steve, you already had a chance, so I'm going to take the next row behind you.
No. After this session.
Minister John Fraser, ZA Confidential. Could I just ask, from what you were saying about the SARS Commissioner, does he enjoy your full confidence, and do you expect him to be in the job for much longer? And secondly, you just mentioned you're going to have meetings with Rob Davies and other economic ministers whose party has just called for the removal of the president. How on earth are you going to do business with these people?
Take the young gentleman next to you.
Minister, you're right that the narrative has been about the departure of your predecessor. That has certainly eclipsed your appointment. In fact, the words Zuma appointment was all I could remember from yesterday, what was said about you. That sentiment, did you detect something like that in the meetings that you've had thus far, certainly with the ratings agencies and others, that you're just being seen as a Zuma appointment?
Thank you.
Erica Gibson from Report. Minister, with reference to nuclear as a possibility for our energy needs for the future, you've referred to energy being stable for the moment. Do you think it is an affordable option for the future? And secondly, as the former Minister of Public Enterprises, you should be aware of the dire state that many of the SOEs find them in. What would you like to achieve in your new portfolio to actually get them out of this doldrum where they find themselves? And I refer specifically to SAA and to Denel, as well as a number of others. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take, Sabella, I'll come back for you. I'll take the young gentleman next to him.
Minister Malungelo Boy from ENCA here. Minister, previously the President had said that rating agencies are being used as an arsenal for regime change. I want to know whether do you share the same sentiment, as well as part of the public discourse on this appointment, especially of yours, was that you've been appointed there to sort of like rubber stamp some projects and all that, and especially regarding the Gupta family. What do you make of those accessions to people that really may not have faith in you as the minister in this important portfolio, as you said? Thank you.
Thank you, Malungelo. I'm sure in time you will share with us which projects you are speaking about specifically so we can begin to answer specific questions. Minister, I'll let you take those ones, then we'll go to Cape Town and we'll come back. I promise you. Minister said he'll be here.
Can I just sneak in the last one, please? Then you can go to Cape Town.
Because you're Xhosa, I'll allow it. Let's go quickly.
Good day, gentlemen. Sabelo Skiti here from the Sunday Times. Minister, just two questions. In your address, you said that for a long time there's been a narrative around, I'll call it the ownership of National Treasury. You're calling it a narrative, you're calling it a perception. What's your view on National Treasury? And then secondly, just to jump on Erica's question about SOEs, the more larger ones, more wealthier, that are monopolies in the industry, that in the sectors that they're in, have in the short sort of recent past acted in defiance of the National Treasury. And there's not been a lot of any intervention from the president. Will you be meeting with the president perhaps to talk to him about that lack of cohesion between SOEs and the Department of Finance specifically?
Minister, the floor is yours.
You know, before I forget that the DG was asked questions, let me ask him to answer those questions. I'll step aside for a moment and then I'll come back to all these questions that have been asked. I think you must stay.
What do I have to
yes.
Don't get me comfortable.
No, thanks, Minister. Let me just start with the question on the draft bill. I think there is already the draft bill. This is the procurement bill. Someone had asked, will it go through cabinet? There is a very good draft that's in existence already that begins to capture a number of these aspirations and ambitions that the minister spoke to, and if you go back, a number of other things that are captured even in the NDP and other policy documents of government. Of course, as it happens in our country, lawmaking is very, very transparent. The bill will go through cabinet, get into the parliamentary process, and because it impacts on provinces as well, it will be processed in a rather more elaborate manner, and there will be opportunity to comment, to influence, to shape it, and then ultimately, as it happens, it will be properly promulgated. I mean, I'm going to appeal to you that, and the Minister and the Deputy Minister, that you, in answering this question about morale and myself, you allow me to be longer than usual. And those of you who know me, I can be very long. So brace yourselves. But let me start by saying this. If you take someone like me who has worked at the Treasury, worked for government for 20 years now, at the Treasury 19 years as of January this year. And if you track or trace what I've been involved in at the Treasury, the complexity of the tasks, the amount of energy that those tasks have required, from the time I joined the National Treasury as a Deputy Director in the Budget Office, in the division that was dealing with, among other things, budget reforms. So all, let me not say all, at least risk of sounding self-aggrandizing, but I was only a Deputy Director, but very much in the thick of things from the time that I joined the National Treasury. Honored indeed, because one of the things that I did right from 1998 was to provide secretarial duties to the Ministers' Committee on the Budget just shortly after it was established, which meant I had access both to Andre Roux, who was the Deputy Director General at the time, to Maria as the DG of the Treasury, of Finance when I just joined the Treasury, but also access to such luminaries as Trevor Manuel, and of course all the ministers were members of the Ministers' Committee on the Budget. Minister Khatebe, Dr. Skweyiya, Minister Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma at the time, and so on. So I'm giving you this context to illustrate the fact that I've been there for a long time, and all the time not hiding in some corner on a paid holiday. Of course, I rose through the ranks. And 19, 20 years on, I'm where I am. Reluctantly, by the way, I must say, because one of the advantages that those of us who grow within the Treasury is that you get to appreciate that whilst being a DG of the Treasury may mean that most people get to know your face and recognize you, but it doesn't end there. There is way too much that goes with that job. So the honor that you get and the glorification is, for me, never enough to justify the slog. It is never enough. But as a committed South African, a South African who appreciates where the country comes from, and the fact that if you are asked to play a role as important as this, it would be very rude and perhaps unpatriotic not to agree to play the role. Now, then pause and think about it. My predecessors each took 7 years in the job. Let me tell you this. I mean, I don't think that a Treasury Director General who does his or her job will last as long, and I say this with the greatest of respects, but it will come across badly, and let it be. In other departments, people boast that they've been in the roles for 15 years or 20 years. You can't be in this role and still live. You just can't be. It's impossible. I mean, you travel a lot. You have got to be on top of way too many complex issues. I mean, yesterday afternoon, one of my colleagues was asking me, because there are two piles on my desk, like thick like this, and this is not just an exaggeration, of memoranda on very complex issues, things that if you make a wrong turn on, you take a wrong decision on, the country would suffer immensely. I've got to sacrifice weekends going through that stuff, burn midnight all going through that stuff. So I paint this context because many of you, because sometimes you grow to like us, but in the context you become too selfish to expect of us that as normal human beings, we can die in this job. Let me illustrate you in terms of numbers. If I were to stay at the Treasury now until I retire at 60, that would mean I would have served at the Treasury for 30 years. How many of you in the room have been with the same employer for 10 years? There is no one. Can you see that? Okay. Okay. No, not too many. You may just look behind you, Miriam. You may think that there are many who raise their hands. The point I'm making, your jobs are very easy compared to mine. What do I know about them? No, forgive me for that. But I'm just making the point that I know mine very well and the Treasury reasonably well. So I'm saying that it is tough. We know why people would prefer absolute stability at a place like the Treasury. But I'm pleading for myself and for those who will come after me. You also have to be reasonable and expect that normal people would do normal things. I say this because I've done 6 years now in May. I will be owing just 1 year relative to both my predecessors because they each did 7 years, right, of this tough job. And I've met them a few times because we remain friendly with each other. And I asked them, I say, hey, man, was it as tough as this? I don't know if they are just appeasing me. They say, look, we've seen difficult times, but nothing like what you're dealing with. In many respects. You know, not just because the politics have become a little bit more complex now, but if you just take it, you know, the global financial crisis, whilst Maria went through the Asian crisis, it was on and off quite quickly, normal cyclical stuff. So there is no doubt about it that the situation is more difficult, which then means that we've got to view things in that context. Now, I mean, the moral thing, I answered it very deliberately in February, in a somewhat longer answer, but let me give you the version of why I said the things I said. You see, the Treasury has had an unbelievable advantage in the earlier parts of democracy. In fact, let me restate this, because I was recounting to someone that in the beginning, we were one of the departments where ministers changed very fast. From Derek Keys to Liebenberg and to Trevor Manuel in the first term. Most people forget that. But then we kind of as a country learned lessons, I will just put it like that. We learned lessons from it, and then Trevor came in, there was turmoil in the markets, and then stability. People grew to like him, I think 13 years. Same portfolio. Elections would come and go, same minister. If you look again the change to now, it was another very smooth and easy change because he was an insider in inverted commas. We knew him, we knew how he liked his tea, and all that kind of stuff. So the change was easy, seamless, and stuff like that. No one asked questions. I mean, people may have had these doubts and stuff, and indeed they expressed some of them. But very quickly it became obvious that he has been there, and people didn't have problems with it. The changes that are a little bit too uncomfortable are the changes that come unexpectedly. And this is what I was, I'm getting to the point that someone said in February, I said morale this and so on. The changes that come in the middle of a term come naturally, unexpectedly. Because it's, the car is in motion and it's almost like you change the wheel when the car seems to be stable and moving. That's kind of the thing. And I'm talking now from knowing what the people say from inside and how they feel. Here is the point. It is not a reflection necessarily of a rejection of change. It is not, we've got no reason not to like Minister Gigaba. Of course. Before we get to know him. And what he stands for. There is no reason to do that. He is a South African. He comes from the same party as his predecessor. We have interacted with him in different ways on different things, but from the kind of distance that you can talk about with in relation to the other minister. So people must understand this, and naturally, it does. People change. Some of you have been through it. It scares the people. It does concern people. You say, what will it bring? But what we have also learned now in the recent years and stuff like that is that it's not always the case that it will necessarily bring negative stuff. Give change its chance, work with it, and see the stuff. And here is the most important part of what I'm going to say to you, which is that we are a group of, maybe group is not right, team. We are a team of professionals. We pride ourselves in our professionalism. We are working at the Treasury less because we are committed to the individual who leads the Treasury or individuals leading in other parts. By the way, it should be the case that even if it were to happen that the party that leads were to change, the professionals in the institution should be able to continue doing their work. It cannot be that you should expect, there may be people who are not okay to trust because they have been rubbing shoulders too closely with the previous politicians if there were to be a change. But naturally, most people are in their jobs, first and foremost because they have got qualifications that enable them to perform those jobs, because they're committed to the cause of transforming our country, less because there is a particular minister or not a particular minister. And the critical thing is that the Constitution hasn't changed, the PFMA hasn't changed, and all the laws that undergird our work have not changed. They are still what they are, and therefore there wouldn't be too much reason for people to necessarily say, look, I'm so uncomfortable that I'm getting close to the end, my thumb I can see you're worried. But let me then say that, you see, I've indicated this thing about, having professionals here, and it is quite heartening that in the first day that we've been interacting with the minister, the interactions have been very easy, setting out what we are about, having him indicate his initial thoughts on things and stuff like that. And we've got to give that a chance, work with it, and so on and so forth. I mean, he was emphasizing to all of you that he comes from the same organization as his predecessors, so there isn't much that will change, and so on and so forth. I hope that I've answered this. I saw many of you nodding your heads. I hope that your satisfaction. But I'm not asking you to express your dissatisfaction if you are dissatisfied. Because once I move off this chair, I'm not coming back, please. Thank you very much.
Arabile order, Chief. So we had a few questions we had to answer from this side, Minister, and then I said I would go to Cape Town, and then I would close it with one more round in Tshwane before we allow the Minister, the DG, and the Deputy Minister to leave. So, Minister, I'll give you the
Thank you.
floor.
So, yes, the SARS Commissioner enjoys my full confidence. As all other heads of agencies, I don't come here with preconceived ideas about anybody. They all enjoy my full confidence. As I say, in particular with regards to the SARS Commissioner, I have worked with him. I know his professionalism, his capabilities, his experience. I know that what type of a person he is. Now, the question about Dr. Davis, the positions of the SACP, I think they are unrelated. I think the issues are unrelated. Dr. Davis remains the Minister of Trade and Industry. The SACP and the ANC remain in alliance, but that's besides the point. As Minister of Trade and Industry, and I, as Minister of Finance, we have a duty to work together in pursuit of the common goals and implementation of the policies of our government. And so we will work together. How on earth will I do this? Simply, I'll write him a letter and request a meeting and give him a call and emphasize the importance of that meeting. And then the meeting will take place. And that will be it. When we will talk, and I will highlight to him the areas which I think are of interest to me, that I want us to work closely on. He'll indicate his, and such will the meeting go. I don't think any one of us will want to discuss the positions of the SACP or the ANC on any issue. All ministers, including the previous ministers, were Zuma appointees for the duration of his presidency. Prior to him, we were Motlanthe appointees, and prior to him, we were Mbeki appointees, and prior to him, we were Mandela appointees. Such as it was, and such will it be when a new president takes charge of the East Wing of the Union Building. So let's not think there is any minister who is appointed by anybody else outside the president. We are all appointed by the president. We are his appointments. With regard to the nuclear, we have indicated that we will implement the nuclear program at a pace and scale that the fiscus can afford, that the country can afford. I don't think that we will or should try to be reckless about this. The IRP 2010 was developed and adopted with everybody's full participation, and it was adopted by Cabinet. I remember that when I was appointed Minister of Public Enterprises in 2010, it was one of the things that were hot on the agenda of Cabinet. We all agreed to it. And the issue of the funding model and the technology preference for it are yet to be finalized. And I think the principle stands that we will implement it at a pace and scale that the country can afford. I share the sentiments about the importance of strengthening the governance of state-owned companies, ensuring that there is stability, that they implement a clear mandate, and I certainly support the review of the governance framework of state-owned companies that is currently underway in Cabinet, led by the Deputy President. Cabinet has had extensive discussions. At one stage, a full day dedicated to discussions over this. And I think that the results will be positive. But it's important that all shareholder ministers should pay great attention to improving the governance of state-owned companies, to ensure that their balance sheet is healthy, and that those that are supposed to invest in infrastructure rollout are able to do so, both on the strength of their balance sheet and their ability to raise resources. I think the challenge that we are facing, and you will have noticed this with the decrease of the capital investment plans by Transnet, is that the current fiscal constraints and economic slowdown in our country has put all of us in a situation where we need to try to invest, to continue investing in infrastructure rollout against a slowing economy. And so my view with regard to all of these organizations is that we will work with the shareholder ministers to try improve the balance sheet of the state-owned, the governance of state-owned companies and return them to financial health. Now, if I may just jump to the question Sabelo asked about the large state-owned companies, we will engage with that. I think it's necessary that we should. All of government would be concerned that state-owned companies would make public pronouncements that seem to defy government as the shareholder. So certainly, we are going to engage with that, with the board's consent, the shareholder ministers, because ultimately the buck stops with the ministers as shareholder representatives. Government policy cannot be negated by an entity of government. If at home I set the rules that my children must be within the premises at 6 p.m., I expect that they will, and that nobody will defy me in that regard. And if you do, there must be consequences. So I will engage with the relevant shareholder representatives and discuss with them, because in some instances, the public outbursts seem to not only to negate government policy, but to undermine the credibility of government policy. When the president makes pronouncements on particular issues and the executives of entities negate those public pronouncements, and when ministers make public pronouncements and the executives negate them, it behoves government as a whole, but the relevant shareholder representatives to take necessary action to correct that. And I think that it is in the interest of government that we should do so, so that we don't undermine ourselves in front of the nation and global investors. I don't think I need to meet the president on this, because I think the policies are clear. My responsibility is to meet with the relevant shareholder ministers and ensure that we can iron these issues out ourselves. Even then, to the extent that the issues may remain unsolved, I believe that there is sufficient leadership, foresight, and goodwill at government among my colleagues to deal with these issues timeously, so that we don't give too much space for these views to eventually become entrenched as not only the alternate opinions of government, but as the opinions of government. So we'll deal with that. I think there are many people who make their opinions about credit ratings agencies. From where I sit, I understand that we need to address the issues of investment capital and concerns among global communities about whether we will be able to pay back the investments that various companies and investors make in our economy. Our cooperation with them is obviously a rigorous cooperation. I don't presume that they don't like us, neither do they presume we don't like them. But I think they are part of the checks and balances that exist in the global economic system. Because at the end of the day, investors must have opinions about our country, and the things we do and say must generate sufficient confidence among investors that their investments are safe and that we are taking rational decisions. I don't know which projects. When I was called by the president on Thursday, he didn't say that there are these projects that I want you to rubber stamp, and here is the stamp. So I can't comment on that. I can't speak on rumors, innuendo, and stuff like that. My job is to do my job as outlined. The narrative on National Treasury, in actual fact, I appreciate, Sabelo, that you asked this question in that way, because at times when somebody says there is a narrative out there, others then say, you are saying yourself. No, it's not what I'm saying. It's what I said is a narrative out there. You know, National Treasury, by its nature, in any country, generates very intensive debates with regard to its role and its mandate. And over the last 22 years in South Africa, we have had those debates. There are many. I don't think I need to cite all of them. What is my view? National Treasury is important, not above other government departments, but it is fundamentally important to help us manage public finances and resources. It's important to set the tone for our economic policy trajectory and how we are going to create jobs, grow the economy inclusively, and create wealth. And I think that we all must understand the pressures that the people at National Treasury work under. The DG would have omitted to mention that in our interactions prior to yesterday, I was saying to him, whenever I saw him, that I needed more money for Home Affairs. And he had one set of answer for me. I don't have it. I'm not giving ideas to the new Minister of Home Affairs, but all I'm saying is that we must all understand the pressures that Treasury works under, the conflicting demands. At the end of the day, we, as government, we have got to take hard decisions. At times, midstream, as it happened, for example, in the last 2 years when midstream were to find money to pay for the registration fees in order to achieve a 0% free increment for university students, or we had to find money to provide support to some state-owned companies and so on. So those pressing demands, conflicting demands will always be there. And from where I see it, the competing demands, sorry, not, did I say, yes, I said conflicting, thanks, DG. Competing demands. Those competing demands will always be there. We need to accept them. And from where we see it, learn to say no family, learn to say no, not yet, learn to say yes, but not now, learn to say yes, this can be done. It will always be based on our assessment of the resources at our disposal and whether we are able to re-engineer the situation in order to address certain demands. But my view is that National Treasury is absolutely important. We will always work towards improving its ability to perform, but it is a crucially important institution within government, among others. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mzi, I hope you're still there. Cape Town.
Yeah, yes, my Tom, I've been attentively listening and patiently waiting for this opportunity.
Thank you for your patience. Can you just take questions then?
Yeah, I'll give it to Marianne to ask questions from this side. Thank you.
Good morning. It's Marianne Merton from Daily Maverick. Some of the questions around the narrative around National Treasury have been answered, but I was wondering if you could elaborate on what you meant by National Treasury does not exist for the exclusive use and benefit of some with powers and vested interests. Looking back, who do you think has held that? Going forward, what are your concerns? And I was wondering if you could perhaps also just clarify, towards the end of your statement, you mentioned that there would be a whole range of engagement and meetings with black industrialists, labor, etc. On the face of it, it does seem that those would be engagements that ministers, your colleagues in the cabinet, small business development, DTI, are the lead in. Are you looking at joining them? Are you looking at taking over? As I said, I just wanted a clarification. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that will be all for now, Matlome.
Oh wow,
Thank you.
Quite efficient. So maybe we can come back here and actually close it now. So I'll take Stephen, there's a question here in the front that you wanted to ask, or you covered? Okay, I'll take Arabile, and then I'll take Business Day with Hillary there, and then I'll take the two of you, and then let's start, go quick.
Thank you, Mayor.
Please, Stephen, try not to do 8 questions, just one.
No, it's just one question.
Sure.
Thank you. And Minister, thank you. I do appreciate the second opportunity. I do have to ask, 3 members of the ANC's top 6 have said they find that they have reservations around this reshuffle. The Deputy President said he finds it completely unacceptable. The Secretary General said he's uncomfortable. William Kize said this morning the process around the reshuffle shows the center of power has moved away from the ANC. My simple question is, do you believe you have a mandate from the ANC to be finance minister? Thank you.
Nice question, Stephen. You covered Arabile.
Minister, my question then is, South Africa is struggling to get 0.3% growth. Well, that's what we got in 2016, and is struggling to reach the growth targets of the NDP precisely. what tangibly new can you do then, or what idea do you have that can tangibly boost growth in South Africa?
Arabile, you'll appreciate that it is the minister's first day at work, and he's still going to be undergoing briefings throughout the week with the DG's team. But I'm sure Minister and DG will maybe have a small bite at that. I'll take Funego and then Warren at the back when you're done.
Thank you. Your predecessor spoke about a plan to take the chairmanship of the PIC, make it a non-political appointment. Have you spoken to your predecessor or the president about that plan? Thanks.
Again, Minister is meeting his predecessor on Monday, but I'll allow Minister to have a bite at that. Sir.
Hi, Warren again. Sorry, Minister Gigaba, just to draw distinction between your comments around the nuclear program. As far as I'm aware, your predecessor did not even mention it in his budget speech this year. You've indicated that the country would take a path, I think the word you used, at a pace that's appropriate in line with fiscal constraints. My problem with the nuclear program, sir, is that it's very binary in its nature. You either decide to build the nuclear reactors, which are large, long-scale capital projects, or you don't. And it's a situation that government would finance for probably between 15 to 20 years before you actually saw the benefits of nuclear. So perhaps if you could just clarify that for me, what you mean by the pace and the appropriateness of nuclear in terms of the policy and the budget that's been set aside for it. Thank you.
Hilary Jaffe from Business Day. The tax year, Minister, ended at midnight last night. I was wondering if you could, if you have yet been briefed, and if you could tell us whether the South African Revenue Services has met the revised target which your predecessor set for it, and also whether you will be keeping the Davis Committee in place to advise you on tax matters. That is my first question. And the second question, unrelated, is as Public Enterprises Minister, you were quite keen on 51% black ownership of, for example, coal suppliers. So when you speak, as you did earlier today, about changing the patterns of ownership and so on, are you keen to see that across the economy? In other words, to see targets of 51% black ownership for black empowerment targets rather than the 26% that's currently in the codes? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. If you just indulge me, I'm trying to close this, to have this as the last session. So I'll take that hand at the back, and then I'll take your hand, and then we are closed for today, please, colleagues.
It's Morgan from SABC. If the Deputy Minister could please say something, whatever.
You want the Deputy Minister to say whatever?
Maybe just tell us what's on his mind.
Absolutely. We'll give the DM a chance for that. Chief.
Mr. Gigaba, you answered that question about your income and what income you have. Can you perhaps just add to that? You've been, as recently as Friday, accused of being corrupt, and by Julius Malema specifically, and perhaps others before that. Are you corrupt? Did you? Secondly, do you have any accounts, perhaps bank accounts outside of South Africa, Dubai specifically? Thirdly, what's your relationship with the Gupta family? When you were at Public Enterprises, they followed through and took over many important functions there. So they did at ESCOM. Are they coming perhaps at Treasury now that you're there? Do you give us your relationship with them, please? And lastly, just to add to Warren's question about nuclear, there is currently no process in the government, or at least at Treasury, on the nuclear power stations. You say we will build nuclear stations at a pace. Where was that decision taken and by whom, perhaps? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that's what we are here for. We want to deal with all those perceptions that are out there. But I must say, in future, we look forward to the day when people provide some evidence for the accusations that they make, instead of saying, I'm accusing you of something, but now you must prove that you didn't do this. So it would have been nice if some of these accusations were coupled with some evidence, even if it's partial. But nonetheless, Minister, I'll give you the floor.
May I ask the DG to answer partly the question about nuclear? I'll ask the Deputy Minister afterwards to say something. And then I will come back to the other questions. Thank you.
I must say, this feels like the replay of, was it the 14th of December, 2015? No, I mean, I offered the minister that I would take the part because it was narrower, but I should have been careful. I should have been wise. I had waited for the question to be asked in its entirety so that I don't. But of course, in fairness, it's because some of what was asked he can't answer because of his newness. But let me perhaps do more than what I had committed to answer. You know, one of the things that I think we don't do well as South Africans, and sometimes it expresses itself in this area of nuclear, is that we talk past each other on sometimes exceedingly important matters. I mean, the way that we have sometimes dealt with this question of nuclear is to indicate to people that the nuclear technology for energy generation has been part of South Africa's energy mix since Koeberg was built. And there is no doubt that it has served South Africa well. And indeed, whilst in other parts of the world, the most recent one that I remember being Japan's Fukushima incident, there have been accidents. There hasn't been an accident, at least on Koeberg, of the kind that exposes South Africans, and to the extent that these things can get to other parts of the world and the rest of the world to what has happened. So we have had a nuclear power station or reactors, and we have operated them safely. We are a country rich in the resource you need to power a nuclear plant. That's just a fact. It is just a fact. As a country, we are committed also to clean technologies. And once you have dealt with the safety issues of nuclear, it would appear that it can actually contribute towards reducing the carbon intensity of our GDP production processes, which is yet another objective that our country is committed to. Not only just for its own sake, but it has made this commitment very public and signed international conventions in this regard, and even invited people to come to South Africa when we hosted COP70. Now, I would hope that those things were not done just so that people come here and think that we're committed to those things in another sense. Of course, then all too quickly, we do things the South African way. We juxtapose nuclear against IPPs and pretend as if they are necessarily contradictory. It's one and the other. And in so unhelpful a way that the debate becomes so muddled and it ends up in an unhelpful terrain. That's just the basic point. Now, I know you had posed this directly to the minister, but perhaps I must get into it. I mean, we've got an IRP 2010, which is kind of the broad government policy. It's approved. It has got the provision for nuclear as part of it. It is being revised. I may not recall exactly where the process is, but I think that I know it hasn't been concluded, and it might produce another different picture in terms of the scale and where it should be and so on and so forth. So that is where the issue of nuclear being part of it comes from. I think he's nodding, so he's agreeing with it. Now, the issue of pace and scale can never be contentious. We just make it up. And of course, when I say this, in my case, I'm not accusing you. There may also be people in, whether it's in government or in entities, who communicate about it as though that part of it is forgotten. No one can ever, I cannot start by liking a Bentley. Maybe I'm wrong to say this. I can, when I'm thinking about needing a mode of transport, it is not inconceivable that I can start by liking a Bentley. But too quickly, when I start talking to the salespeople, I might realize that I've set my dreams too high in terms of this means of transport, because my income doesn't allow me to move around in style as in owning a Bentley. And therefore, I might revise down and settle for a Toyota, which is what I have. And this is what this thing about space and scale means. What we need is energy, and as part of the mix, it is likely we would have nuclear. And if and when we buy it, we can only buy it at a pace and a scale that we can afford it. It is only logical. Come and tell me that there is an alternative way which is also logical. It's easy, you can say it's an alternative way, but prove to me arithmetically, this is not even maths, that it is logical, that given the size of GDP here, the size of revenue that GDP can generate, given the size of Eskom's balance sheet, the amount of debt that that balance sheet is carrying at the moment, the guarantees that the sovereign has given, and more guarantees, if necessary, that the sovereign can decide it can afford. If you add all of these things up, you will come to some number that sensibly and sustainably the country can afford. And that number is a continuum from 0 to some other number. It just is a matter of reality, that. So that is what I was understanding the minister to be saying. Now, the disappearance of an allocation for nuclear from the budget is not a mystery. There was a decision taken, or maybe let me rephrase this. Earlier on, the idea was that the Department of Energy would procure, I think. Now, in that case, the department had to have capacity, employ transaction advisors, and you name all of those things. Hence, the 200 million that they were allocated. That was the part of the question I was offering to answer, by the way, that I got entangled into the whole answer. So they were allocated money to do all of that because they needed the capacity to do that way. Then Cabinet decided, don't remember the dates, that it must wholly go to Eskom. Then there would be no reason to build the capacity so that in government, so that Eskom does it. Are you with me? So that's where it's not as mysterious as people make it. You may ask, the minister said pace and scale. If it's Eskom, why should it be pace and scale? Eskom is wholly owned by the sovereign. Eskom largely now borrows on the back of guarantees from the sovereign. So the sovereign is right at the front and center of that procurement. So the affordability issue cannot be independently determined by Eskom alone, because if, let's say theoretically, and I'm saying only theoretically, it could very quickly turn to be practical, by the way, if they were to overcommit themselves and therefore be unable to service that debt, it becomes government's business. So what they do, how they borrow, how they finance, is as much their business as it is government's business, because they can't do it in any way. Is there any other thing that you thought I could help with? I mean, I wish I had this very easy one that the Deputy Minister has, where I just say anything.
No, I think we covered DG. Thank you. We'll allow the Deputy Minister to say something, and then we'll close off with the Minister answering.
Changing it. Oh, no, just move your chair closer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Thank you, Minister. Thank you, DG. I think the Minister and the DG have covered everything that I would have said. But since I've been asked, I'll say a few things. Well, before we decided on this media briefing, we had a discussion amongst ourselves whether we need to have it today or perhaps we need to wait until we have had a thorough briefing with the management, which would have helped to deal with some of the questions. But we're already very clear that we were just itching to hear us, hence our being here today, and we appreciate that you definitely did come today. I think the fact that there are so many of you here, it means that we took a very correct decision. I know that there's quite an interest on the Deputy Minister. Who is he? Well, perhaps it talks to the nature of the Deputy Minister. Over the years, he has been a background person, and he deliberately decided, I've been part of government, but I decided, and the ANC decided, that my place was behind politicians. From 1994, I started working with politicians. Perhaps just to give you a little bit before even then, this Deputy Minister was an aspirant doctor. During my second year, I was at the University of the North, TEF. During my second year, as duty called, I found myself in exile, joined the ANC, joined MK, got deployed in the in northern KZN in Guavuma, given a lot of responsibility, and ended up on Robben Island. I think that's important because I think if I didn't go to Robben Island, I wouldn't be here today. So when I sat down with the old men there, amongst other people that I found who, for some reason, developed an interest in me, was Comrade Govan Big, who always wanted to interact with us young people. Then I said to him, I wanted to be a doctor. I can't continue being a doctor on Robben Island. What do I do? I thought I was going to impress him and say I wanted to study politics. And he said, no, Sfiso, there is no other university which can give you better politics than Robben Island. So that one is covered. Think of something else. And then he said to me, why don't you do economics? Knowing him as a communist, I said, yeah, am I going to now start a capitalist economy? I said, you guys, you say you want to change this economy. How do you change something that you don't understand? And that's how I got the bug. And then started studying economics from Robben Island, doing my first degree there, getting a BCom degree in economics. Then after that, going to University of Cape Town, an honors degree in economics and a master's degree in economics. And from that time onwards, ANC said, well, the main thing or the main challenge of any struggle in the world is to change the economy and the economic ownership and relationships. And I think that's why we're here. That's why even today we talk of radical economic transformation. I hear, for instance, when ENCA kept on saying, I worked for about 5 years as an advisor to the president when he was still an MEC. In fact, I only worked with him for 1 year in KZN. That was from 1994 until 1995. After that, I started working as an economic advisor for the then Premier of Mpumalanga, Dr. Matthew Sposa, who I worked with him for about 4 years. So if there's a person that I worked with for many years, it's Dr. Matthew Sposa for 4 years in Mpumalanga. After which I was given another task that I became the first CEO of the National Gambling Board when we started with the regulation of the gambling industry in the country. So the casinos that you have today, I plead guilty, Minister, that I was amongst the people who started that, because before 1994, you remember that we only had casinos in the then TPVC states. Perhaps I thought that's important. And over the years, as I said, that as you can see, that I supported politicians. In the first parliamentary list of 1994, I was in that list. But looking at where I was, on 27 April, I didn't make it, but you know that ANC started deploying people at different places. And when they called me, I was already working in Mpumalanga. And I thought, no, I was very comfortable here. I knew that the work of the politicians is not a very glamorous one. Fast forward, after Gambling Board, I then started with Makana Investment Corporation, which is an investment company of ex-political prisoners, which I was there. I think I was there for about 7 years until duty called last year when I was deployed in Parliament. So my life in general, I'd say for the past 35 years, have been serving people. And for me, there's never been a responsibility which is too difficult to take. Some of the responsibilities which I've been given at very early age meant that I was prepared to die for the cause. I became a camp commissar in the Eastern Front in Angola when we were fighting UNITA. A big responsibility of looking after people's lives. I think that's very important, ladies and gentlemen, to note, because that's how I look at these responsibilities that we've been given now. Coming to what we're doing now, I think if there's anything that, as far as this department I would like you to remember about, is that one thing that, again, I think I'll be communicating to my colleagues is that we cannot spend money that we don't have. I think that's very important. And we cannot spend money that we can't afford. For me, budgeting for the state, for government, is not different from the household budgeting. Once you become reckless in your house with borrowing, once you become reckless with your spending, you know what happens. The banks will come knocking at your door. So that's the microcosm of the macroeconomics that we are dealing with here now. So with all the responsibilities that we are having, I think it becomes very important that we realize that fact and we internalize it. And that's the thing, I think that's what with all our stakeholders, and that's what we believe in, that's what the minister has said, that's what the DG has told us. I'm now a member of the Standing Committee on Finance. So the budget that we are dealing with here is the budget that I've been interacting with in Parliament. If I were to answer, inclusive growth is non-negotiable to me. One of you asked, what are we going to do differently? Whatever we're going to do differently is going to be within the budget. Whatever we're going to do is going to be within the limits. It's going to be within the affordability. But if I were to pick up on one thing, we've got a procurement spend of about 500 billion rand as government. There's an outcry out there that the black professionals, you are lawyers, you are auditors, you are black engineers, there's an outcry there that women, they don't get a piece of this. And I would hasten to add that we should not equate us talking about these people to inefficiency. They are saying they also want to be part of this cake, which is already there. So these are the things that we think we want to do. So as I'm saying, we're still going to interact. You just wanted to hear my voice. I think you have heard it. And I think we're still going to have an interaction with you. The minister said to us, as we were discussing with, we were discussing yesterday, even before I was sworn in, he said, the media is our important stakeholder, and that's how we're going to treat you. The rest assured, we take you very, very seriously. We are an important stakeholder to us. We also appreciate the relationship that exists sometimes between ourselves and you, and we think that that's the pillar of our democracy. This is the constitution that all of us here uphold, and we've worked hard for it. So we really, really appreciate that you also took hours out to be with us here on a Saturday. Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, for saying something. Minister, you'll just wrap up those comments and then we'll close.
Thank you very much. Mariana in Cape Town. No. To say National Treasury doesn't exist for the exclusive use of a few or exclusive benefit of a few doesn't mean that there is somebody I am suspecting or spreading gossip about. I think if you were to then read the next sentence, it says that it exists for all South Africans. So don't read innuendo in what I was saying or think I was throwing shade at anybody. It's not my duty. It's not my character. I wouldn't want to do that on the first day, on the second day, on the job. I have no such concerns. What I am emphasizing is the responsibility we have as the department to serve all South Africans, particularly the poorest of the poor, those who are unemployed, to ensure that through the policies we spearhead, we address inclusive growth. With regard to engagements with various stakeholders, I'm not a super minister or a prime minister. I'm just a minister of finance. I have no intention of taking over anybody's job. But it equally is my responsibility to engage with business. Towards that effect, Minister Gordon had established a business task group that I am going to take over and turbo boost to engage with various stakeholders, because I think that was an important initiative on his part to drive it towards trying to increase investment in the real economy. We will be receiving a briefing on it, look at its mandate and objectives, and determine what further improvements we need to bring on board with regard to its mandate and objectives. And it is my responsibility, with the Deputy Minister, the DG, and the department as a whole, to engage with various stakeholders. When we engage with mining companies, it's not because we are taking over the job of the Minister of Mining. It's because it could be necessary in the work we do that we should engage. And when we meet with other ministers, we're not trying to take over the functions of the president. We are just simply implementing that part of our mandate, which may require that we meet with various business entities, the financial sector, we meet with other ministers, or meet with labor. I hope that puts your concerns to rest. With regard to the question Stephen asked, I think what the comments have been from the three officials of the ANC, they have related to their unhappiness with regard to the process and not their unhappiness about the people appointed. I still have on Monday to report to these officials, and I have not heard them saying anything disconcerting or so about us, and so we will take it as that. Our plans, Arabile, for growth, I think we will get it. Look, we're not coming in with preconceived plans. We're not walking into a department which does not have policies, has not presented a budget already which seeks to grow the economy. We will take over that responsibility which already was approved by cabinet and tabled before the National Assembly. The National Assembly is going to start in May engaging in the budget process, in budget policy statements for the different departments, at the end of which it will vote on the expenditure program. And so we are going to be bound by those decisions, because it is at those policy statements that different ministers and clusters are going to outline the specific growth-inducing policies and programs of their departments. Yes, there will be instances when we will state a global view with regards to what we think need to be done in order the more speedier to grow the economy. But we don't come here with a plan in our bags for us to implement. The minister of the previous Minister of Finance has not tabled this proposal of depoliticizing the chair of the PIC to me, and so I have no such proposal in front of me at the moment. I will comment to the former minister once he makes the presentation. Hilary, in my telephone conversation with the commissioner of SARS, he indicated that we should on Monday make the announcement. So hang on for just 1.5 days, roughly 2. We will announce on Monday what were the results. I will comment about the Davis Committee once I have been briefed about it. The issue of the 50% plus one ownership by black people, I think, is a policy debate which can't be taken at a hoof. And so I don't want to comment about it right now. I think government has policies in this regard to which I am bound. I don't want to make any comment that may be scary. I am bound by the policies as they exist until such a time as they are changed by collectively, either at the conference of the ruling party in December or by cabinet acting collectively based on concrete evidence presented before it. Right now, existing policies will pertain. I will support them fully. Those who can and are willing to stretch the bounds based on consensus, I will support them too. Because I think black economic empowerment is in the business interests of business. And I have always held the view that business must not be coerced to support BEE. They must view it to be in their commercial interests, and they must support it because it helps to bolster their profits, their balance sheet, to create greater credibility for their companies and support, to ensure that there is as much participation in the economy as is possible. The question about nuclear has been answered by the DG. I don't think I need to spend time commenting on gossip, innuendo, rumors, and stuff like that. My lawyers are going to deal with that issue. It's not for me.
But I think it's unfortunate because I don't think you have asked the people making such comments to prove them. So if I accuse you of murder, is it your duty to prove that you've not murdered anyone? Or is it my duty as the person making the allegation to provide prima facie evidence? But my lawyers will deal with that. Thank you.
By lawyers, he's not referring to you, he's referring to the comments that were made.
No, sorry, yes, not you.
Thank you all for coming today. I just want to say that on Monday, we will give an update tomorrow about the meeting of the minister and his predecessor. We would like you guys to join us. We want to have a very transparent relationship with you and share everything that we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. I echo the Deputy Minister's statements that we need you guys as a critical stakeholder. So we will keep you guys in the loop at all times about what we're doing.
Sorry, Maslom, I just wanted to ask you a question then. Will the minister be at the briefing with the SARS Commissioner on Monday?
Yes, Minister, yes, he will.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Cape Town.
Thanks,
IMZ, it's closed.
Maitlhome,
Mzi.
it's not Cape Town.
It's not me.
Oh.
Hello?
Yes.
The judgment in the case involving the ministry and the Gupta-owned company.
We've answered that. We've answered that.
Oh,
yeah.
I missed it.
Sure.